as all of you know, I'm Sherri, and this is a passionate topic for me. Although I do spend a lot of time talking about children and education, and Starseeds, animals are and have always been my first love. And so I have been getting a lot of questions recently about animals in general. And I've talked about animals and referenced animals in all three of my books, and I do it frequently because they always are relevant to the conversation. But I felt like we just needed to dedicate a specific webinar just to them because they're just so incredible. And so that's kind of where the idea came. I really don't do animal communication sessions anymore, just because I'm so overwhelmed and busy that I just don't have the time for it. But our animals are important. So I have somebody that I recommend, and I did an interview with her on my channel, Sabine, sorry, Poncelet. I can't speak French, and I'm not going to try to pretend like I have a cool accent, but she's fantastic. I can get you her information. And sometimes animals do come up in my sessions with people, kind of on its own anyways. And so if some of you have had a session with me, we might have talked about your animal, but I just don't have time to do dedicated animal sessions. So hopefully with this today, we can get some answers to some of your questions. So we'll be talking about wildlife, domestic animals. We'll talk about what sacred species are, what that means, and kind of the main animals in that category. And then we'll get into some lyran and feline humanoids. And then we're going to talk about spirit animals just a little bit towards the end, and more kind of a broad, kind of an overview, because that could take a whole other hour, just that. It takes a long time to go over all the different animals. But you'll get the gist when I explain that section to you, how to kind of figure it out yourself without having to Google it. Because if you do that, you get confused, because there are so many different explanations on different sites that can actually get confusing. All right, so let's talk about domestic animals first. There's a lot of different directions I can go with domestic animals, but let's start with the most obvious. So domesticated animals are just that. They have chosen to be domestic animals so that they can help human beings. They are in a group in their own, where they are souls from your direct soul family, or souls that you have had other lifetimes with. And believe it or not, some of them are actually a fractaled soul essence of yourself. I didn't believe this was possible until I had people do sessions with me, and the animal said that they were that person, and their higher self knew that the person needed an extra companionship, but at a level where they could bond so significantly and so profoundly that the soul fractaled off an essence of itself and incarnated as their companion. And I've seen that in dogs, cats, birds, even fish, to believe it or not. So the domesticated animals come in to be with us. So they're not wildlife. They chose to be with us, which is why it breaks my heart when I see animals on chains outside or not allowed in the home, because they don't feel like they're good enough to be in the home, because they're dirty. They're dirty. The owners think they're dirty, and for various other reasons. It breaks my heart, because they chose to, if they wanted to be outside, they would have chosen to be a wild animal. Now, cats are a caveat to that, which we'll talk about in a minute. They're special, but they're a little bit special and unique. So domestic animals are really the main ones. So we have dogs and cats, and really it's dogs and cats, to be honest with you. It wasn't until maybe, from my understanding, about 50 years ago, when animals started to incarnate in more exotic animals to be our companions, with like birds, and the like rabbits, guinea pigs, things like that. Could be a little bit longer than that, could be 60 years, but mainly it's the dogs and cats, and that's why they came in as furry or not furry, scaly, for the reptiles, or feathered, so that they could be close to us, because their objective is to be close to us. That's the point. They're domesticated because they want to be as close to us as possible. And it's another level of a relationship beyond human to human connection. because these beings are already evolved. So those people that are trying to write books and convince everybody that animals are beneath us and they are on the kind of the hierarchy chain of evolution to become human and beyond. Certainly that can be true. And I have done readings where animals were kind of newer souls that are pets. But for the most part, they actually are our soul family members that agree to come in for short durations of time in order to bond with us and to give us a level of companionship that is fifth density and beyond. Some of these animals are even in a higher density field, such as some of the sacred species, which we'll talk about. So these souls have been around the block. They have been human multiple times, if not many times before. They have been other beings. They have been galactic beings. They have been other animals. Sometimes they'll reincarnate multiple times as the same species. So I have an obsession with the Sphinx cats. I'll get into that when we talk about cats. So I've had the same soul come in twice now because they don't live as long as humans do. They have a kind of a short-term contract. And so if they want to come in more, then they'll likely choose the same breed. So, or if you have, had 3 shepherds in your life, or whatever other example you can come up with. Now, they don't usually overlap. So if you have multiples in the house, it's generally 2 souls that you know, or maybe you have 3 or 4 dogs. It could be 4 souls that you know. Maybe one of them is you, a fractal of yourself. And then some of them are other family members that come in for, again, a short duration of time so that they can, for a variety of reasons, excuse me, they can provide protection, which we'll get into specifically for dogs and cats in the next part. They can just provide love, like unconditional love, no matter what. They are there for you, and they are there to give you such an abundance of love when you need it the most, even when you don't feel like you need it or you don't want it and you push them away. There, most of the time they come back. They don't hold grudges. Now, abuse is a whole other thing that I'll get into, but that's not the focus right now. So they're, like I said, they're 5th density and beyond. Some of them are even higher density. They are evolved to a point in which they can then turn around, or not really turn around, they can incarnate to these short-term contracts to be with us for whatever reason we need. And when you look back in your life, I'm sure all of you that have had pets throughout your life can look back at the periods in which you had those specific pets, and you can see what they were there to do for you during that period of time. So they'll pick, or your soul, your higher self, will communicate with them before they come through and determine what time frame is best for them to come through, for guidance for you, or for whatever it is that you are in need of in that time. And then when they're ready to go, then they will move on. And then if they choose to come back, they'll come back at another time. It gets a little bit complicated when you have multiple people in the house. Some people always ask, well, which dog is my, I'm sorry, I can't speak. Who is my dog attached to? So or my cat. And that's a complicated answer because there isn't always it's not always black and white like that. So sometimes animals will come in as a family contract, because those of you in your household, you have contracted to be with them, even roommates, even long-term roommates, and romantic partnerships. And then of course your intimate family as you were growing up with siblings and your parents and grandparents. So they could say, okay, I'm going to come in. I know all of you. I'm going to come in. I'll be the family dog, or I'll be the family cat. But then you can see clearly in some families where an animal will choose a specific person that might be apparent from the very beginning, or I've even seen it change where the dog or cat is attached to one person for a while and then kind of gravitates over to another for years and kind of goes back and forth. So there isn't a hard and fast rule. It's really the choice of the animal and the owner. The owner, that sounds terrible. The family member that they're kind of coming in to help and guide. And so the ones that have chosen somebody out of a group, it's likely that the contract is between the 2 of them, even if it's the youngest child in the house and the family thinks that they're getting this dog for the mom or dad purchases the dog or cat for the family, or adopts the dog for as a family dog, and then it gravitates to one of the siblings that they didn't necessarily intend on. So we didn't have a conscious knowing that there was this plan, this divine plan, but the animal will ultimately find who it is that they're connected to, because on a soul level, they know each other, they know the plan. It's about familiarizing themselves when they come through. So things get a little bit tricky, and I always get this question about adoptions and multiple households that animals are in. So let's say that a dog is in a home, and then the children develop allergies, or this happens a lot with cats too. So the cat is rehomed, or the dog is rehomed. So they always ask me, okay, so what happened to that contract? And from what I gather, again, there's multiple explanations for it, but what I've been told a majority of the time is that animals, just like people, have the ability to walk in. So those of you that have heard me speak about walk-ins before, or have a general understanding of walk-ins, it simply means one soul exits, another soul comes through for a variety of reasons. And animals actually can do that as well, just like we can. So if this dog is assigned to this family and it doesn't work out, or this person, or for a lot of different reasons, and these two can't be together, and this dog will end up going, or cat or other pet will go to another family on a higher level, and with divine intervention, that soul will walk out and another soul will come through to be with that other child or adult or person in another family. It's very complicated to us, but it's really simple on a higher level when the plan takes place. So that's why, that's how animals find us. So I always get the question, oh, it was such a strange connection that I got. I went to the shelter and I was looking for this particular type of breed, and then this other animal just jumped on my lap and got my attention. How did the universe orchestrate that? Or if there are litters of puppies, or kittens, is it all designed ahead of time? How can we make it so that everybody finds their person? So this is what happens for litters, like whole litters. What takes place is two things. One, it's divinely designed ahead of time, and everybody has a home, and so the souls go into the right body accordingly, or they wait, and there are it's like an oversoul or a hive mentality, not in the way you would think, not in a negative reptilian way, but a cohesive kind of connection, and they will wait. And then when the adults or whomever comes to pick them up or look at the breeds, the selection of males and females, once the selection has been made, then the soul can pop into that particular body, or the soul is in the body already, and it will do everything it can to get the attention of the person. I was just talking to someone the other day that said that they went to adopt a dog that they saw online, and by the time they got there, that dog was walking out the door with a new owner, and they were devastated because that's the dog they felt the connection with, even though she never met this particular dog. And when she went to the shelter, that dog was leaving with someone else, and she was devastated. She ended up going into a cat room because of her friend that was with her just wanted to check out the cats, and then this cat literally just out of nowhere jumped in her arms and wouldn't leave her alone. And the lady in the office said, I've never seen that cat react that way to anybody. And she ended up taking that cat home, and again, that is a divine connection between the two of them that she didn't expect. But the soul of the cat was in that cat's body and knew darn well that she was going to get her attention no matter what. So there are a lot of variations to it. It's very complicated, but it can also be quite simple. So animals, whether they're cats or dogs or birds or chinchillas or reptiles that are domesticated, meaning they chose to come into this life and to be our companions, are souls that we know, and we have a contract with them, and they will come through for however long they desire, we desire, or what we've agreed upon ahead of time. Now, the most heartbreaking thing to people is what our domestic animals do for us that they can't even fathom, because they love them so much, is that they truly are master healers, and they will do everything in their power to absorb our illness, our blocked emotions, our fear, our anxiety, our stress, all of those things. And they take that on because they are they are energy beings like we are, but they understand on a much higher level of consciousness how to manipulate energy and move energy. And they know how to absorb the energy from their person or their people in their family. And they do that willingly. And they take on a lot more and they absorb a lot more than we think they do, so that they can help us relieve stress, worry. That's why they make such good therapy dogs and companion dogs, and for the elderly, children, and everyone in between. So sometimes out of their own choice, their conscious choice, they will absorb too much. And that's where illness comes into play with animals, because they will take on so much more than they willingly and they want to, but then their body themselves becomes blocked, and then they generate illness themselves, and it could be devastating. Now, animals do have 3D interference like we do. I don't know if all of you guys have been watching my 3D interference series or have read my newest book, but I go extensively into that. And animals are subjective. Is that the right word? I don't know if that's the right word, if I said it right. They are able to be affected by the 3D interference just as much as we are. So, of course, toxins in the food, in the water, all of the things that affect us, the EMFs, the voice of God technology, the negative beings, negative rays, all of that can affect them too. So they're also dealing with being a high vibrational being in a 3D world and environment, dealing with the 3D interference. But if you top that with, which can cause illness, and then you combine that with them willingly and able to pull our energy to help us to be healthy, then they will sometimes take on too much, and then they get sick. Now, to take that a step further, sometimes our contracts with our animals, and we don't know it ahead of time. Well, we know it ahead of time on a soul level, but we don't know it consciously, is that they will come in and take our cancer, or they will come in and take our chronic illness, something so bad that we were going to either lose our life from it, or it would change the trajectory of our life in such a negative way that we, as a soul level, knew we wouldn't be able to handle it. And they come in and they will die for us. They will do so many more things than we realize, and they will take our cancer because they will mirror our behavior and our energy almost to a T. That's why people, can say, oh, this guy looks like his dog and vice versa, and this woman looks like her cat, and all of those things. Because they really do take on our energy and they mirror us. So not only are they selfless and they'll take on our illness, but they'll also mirror our behavior so that we learn from it. And so if they're really aggressive in nature, it's likely that we're dealing with an aggressive person, and our animals are just showing us how we are being. And so they will, if they're really cowering, and if they cower and they're really shy around other people, likely their owner is that way. Or if their owner is really nervous, the animal's going to be really nervous. If the owner doesn't trust people, the animal will likely be weary around other people and not trust people. So they take on our energy and our perception, not because they're not intelligent, but it's all energy. It's all almost like a quantum entanglement of energy, where our energy merges with their energy and they mirror how we are. And it can be quite complex. And so that's part of the reason why I stopped doing animal communication, because I got tired of animals telling me that their anxiety was from their owner's anxiety, or etc. Many other examples like that. So let's talk about cats. We're going with cats first. We'll talk about cats specifically first. So cats are, they're warrior spirits. They are phenomenal, and they are spiritual warrior predators, but in a good way, in the sense that they are our spiritual protectors. That's why they're so majestic and they're so different personality-wise than a majority of dogs. Now, we always have that handful of cats that are more like dogs, and they're like, no, Sherri, my cat loves to be around people, and they're not like typical cats. Yes, that does exist. My Sphinx are like that too. So they're not typical cat-like, but a majority of them are. They sleep a lot because they are continuously in the astral realm, fighting entities away, negative energy away. They are running. The perimeter of your home and your property. They are constantly energetically defending it, warding off negative spirits. They too will take on our illness, but they work more in the astral realm to protect us on a level that we don't even, or we're not even aware of the majority of the time. So that's why they sleep a lot of the day, because they are doing a lot of work for us. And the wake hours are really their opportunity to be more physical with us. When they may, some like to be pets, some don't. Cats tend to be way less trusting than dogs because they are so spiritually advanced, that they are so keen into the energy of the people around us that they don't trust many people. And that's by design, because they can see your intentions. They can see even past your auric field. They see everything, and they know. So that's why cats, a majority of the time, when new people come into the home, they'll just hide. And that doesn't mean everyone that comes in your home that your cat hides from is negative. It just means it's too much information. It's like when children tell me, I don't want to look at someone in their eyes because I see their demons. I see everything. And they get very overwhelmed. Cats are like that. So they don't want to see it. They not necessarily because I just went to my dad's house for a week, and I had two of the youngest with me, and their cat didn't come out of the room all week. And I didn't take it personal. I knew that we were kind of, to him and her, invading her space. And she was like, I'm just going to stay under the bed all week. And that's where she felt safe and comfortable. And also children tend to make cats feel uneasy because they are unpredictable and their energy is kind of scattered and disoriented at times. And they don't like that. That makes them very uncomfortable. They like consistency. They like stability. And they want to feel safe and secure. And anything outside of that scope, that any change for them can be really disconcerting to cats, because they need things to be a certain way. Now, again, this isn't 100% of cats, but a majority of cats are intuitive, very deeply intuitive spiritual beings that are warriors. They're fierce warriors. And that's why they oftentimes are hunting in the physical. They want to hunt the birds and the reptiles. My cat constantly is trying to hunt lizards in our patio in the back, and in Maryland he wanted to go after the birds. So they just have that natural instinct. So remember this: regardless of a domesticated animal or how domestic they are, at the end of the day, when they go into the physical bodies, just like we do, and we get anchored into a human body, no matter how advanced we are or however many lives we've had someplace else, when we anchor into these bodies as a human, there are certain things that we have to adapt to, these primal needs and emotions that we have. Sometimes we can't control it. So regardless of how spiritually evolved cats and dogs and domestic animals are, at the end of the day, if they go into a cat body or a dog body or something else, the instincts, the primal instincts of that cat or dog are always going to be there, but they generally are able to keep it in check. But if they're in an environment where they're getting abused, they're being neglected, and for a variety of other negative reasons, or just too much energy, too much scattered energy, then their primal aspect of themselves can come forward, and then they will act out. And I see it all the time. So when cats attack people or dogs bite children, there's a reason for it. I go into it in my book, I think pretty well to explain it, but majority of the time, dogs that I have had a conversation with that have attacked a child, it wasn't the child they were after. It was a being that was trying to antagonize the child energetically, or was around the child, or trying to merge with the child. And the dog was trying to attack it. And of course, in their primal space, even though they're high vibrational advanced beings, once they're in that brain of a dog consciousness, they have to fight through those urges, and they don't think quite like we do. Doesn't mean they're less advanced. It's just different operating system, just like our brains are different than theirs, and our capabilities, and they are subjective to their vulnerabilities and their instincts as well. And they're not thinking in that moment, I might hurt this child. In that moment, they're like, I'm going to attack this being that's going to hurt this child. And then they inadvertently attack the child. And then you can see it in their face when they feel guilt. They show it. They cower. They put their head down. They show remorse. And that's the difference between a high vibrational being and a low vibrational human, let's say, who has no remorse, or somebody that does something wrong and doesn't care. They don't have that filter. But dogs do, and cats do. But majority of the time, they feel unsafe because the scattered energy of the child or the child themselves are not old enough to understand, and they're antagonizing the animal. And so they are doing something that the animal doesn't like. And all animals give warning signs, always. It's just a matter of if we notice it or not. So I always tell children to pay attention to the subtle physical signs that an animal is giving them. And they're telling you very clearly if they like what you're doing, if they're nervous, if they're scared, by the position of their tail, how their ears are, the position of their body, their movements. Everything is a clue. They don't have to speak in words for us to know if they're comfortable or not, or if they're okay. And dogs will always give us a sign before they bite. Many people just are oblivious, or they don't care, or for a variety of reasons. But dogs differ from cats in that they are more physical. So cats are more astral. Dogs are more, they choose to come in so that they can be more physical. So they are the physical guard, no pun intended, the guard dogs. So they will protect the property in a physical manner. They're looking to protect us from physical threat of an actual person or another animal coming onto the property. That's why they're always on guard, and they are tuned in to make sure that their house is guarded and protected. Of course, they can protect in a physical way, just like a cat can protect. The dogs can protect in an energetic way, just like cats can protect in a physical way. But a majority of the time, dogs are definitely more on the physical plane. They want to be with their people all the time as much as possible, unless a dog happens to come into a body of a specific breed that tends to be a little bit more nervous energy, because remember, the breeds are important. So if they choose to be in, let's say, a Doberman's body. Now, Dobermans are bred and they were created to be protectors of generally one person. They're keen into their senses. They're always on guard. They don't relax. So they're really not the best family dogs, and certainly not the best for children. But many of them are. And so I've seen beautiful animals, Dobermans that are perfect, great animal pet companions for children. But for the most part, they are high strung, and they kind of have a squirrely personality because they're always on guard and they can't focus. Now, they can't fight those instincts no matter how much they try and they want to relax. They are continuously just waiting for the threat. So not the best breed to choose if you're going to pair that Doberman, in this example, with, let's say, an elderly lady that, can't even control him or take him outside because he's going to take off trying to kill anybody that comes near her. Now, I'm not stereotyping Dobermans. I have one. I'm using him as an example for a reason, because he's very much like that. And then you have the example of this dog in this picture, which is a Labrador or a Golden Retrievers, that are like the complete opposite for the most part. There's always an exception, but for the most part, they are the most gentle, kind. I mean, my kids could jump all over my Golden Retriever and she's not going to do a thing. She'll just lick them in the face no matter what they do to her. And that doesn't give them an excuse to do anything wrong, but the kids can be more kind of themselves and not on edge. So, and it's important that animals choose the right breed. And that's done on a soul level. I mean, the souls are, it's generally, there's a reason why they're choosing certain breeds to come in, and cats or dogs, depending on what they're coming in for and what the role they're going to play in your household. So dogs, again, they come in and they take on illness. They will absorb our energy. They are lie detectors, and also energy experts. So as soon as you walk in the home, your animal knows if you're upset, happy, scared, terrified, and everything in between. They know exactly what emotion you're feeling, and they will plan accordingly. They can sense you coming home from miles away. Most people can't even believe how their dog jumps off the couch, and someone in the home is like, what are they doing? They run to the door, and then minutes later, somebody walks in that's in the family, and they're like, how could they possibly know? Yes, they have strong hearing, but it's an energetic connection. Again, there's no time and space with energy. So if they feel that connection becoming stronger, they know that that person is close by in the physical sense. So I'm sure there's a lot more that I want to say to you guys about dogs and cats, but maybe it'll come in through your questions, because I want to keep going, not get too sidetracked. There's so much we could talk about with animals. But wildlife, we'll get into wildlife really quickly. So wildlife is a little bit different. These are, I have been told that majority of the wildlife, not all, but a lot of them are oversoul groups that are fractals of Mother Gaia. And on other planets, they can be fractals of an oversoul group or that planet. But a lot of the Earth or Terra species here have chosen to anchor themselves here as a species, as an oversoul group, to keep the vibration of the planet steady, and now obviously go up, because it has been a lot of the third density has taken over. So they ground and anchor the planet. They hold the records, the Akashic records of everything that's ever happened, depending on the era and period that they walk on this planet. So if you see large herds like zebras, for example, they kind of have a hive mind where they have a oversoul group, and they're all connected in some way. And that's why animals know what to do when they follow each other in these voyages that they go on and they migrate. You know, it's like, how do they know how to do that? They communicate with the earth, the elements, nature, and with each other. And so they know exactly what to do. And that's by design. So they're not connected necessarily to people, but they do coexist. And if anything, they coexist with us, and we have not coexisted with them. Not we, meaning you guys here on this webinar, but many that don't respect the animals. So they're exotic in nature, but they all play a specific role. But they are an oversoul group that play a specific energetic role depending on where they live. And so I don't know if you guys remember the animal circling phenomenon that was all over the internet. I don't even remember when this was now. It was like 6 months ago, maybe before. And I got it clear. Everyone was speculating all these negative things with 5G and all of this stuff. Certainly that could have been part of it. Of course, there's always more than one answer to everything. But I got an overwhelming message early on that this was animals opening portals to connect inner earth with outer earth, but also to raise the frequency of the planet. And it was a communication going on between the oversoul groups of the animals and Gaia's consciousness herself. And they were circling to open portals to activate energy centers all over the planet for various reasons. And they would circle to create energy, much like we have chakras in our body that create energy vortexes to communicate in the physical, in between the physical and the light body. They were doing the same to create their own kind of chakra energy centers to communicate with the inner earth and the outer, or if we want to say, third dimension to fifth dimension and beyond. So they have the ability to do a lot with each other as a collective group. And so that's not to say that a soul of a human really would love the experience of being a polar bear or even a zebra that's in a herd. They can do that. So there's always an exception. There's no blanket rule for everything where all zebras have to be an oversoul, for example. So there could be a soul from another planet or a human being that decides, I really want to be a zebra, but one life. And so there you go. But a lot of the soul, it tends to be more of the soul animals that are kind of they don't run in packs necessarily. So we have the tiger, male tigers and females, and the polar bears and things like that. They are more likely to be an individual soul that wants to be kind of on their own and experience their journey and what they're here to do. And it may not have anything to do with anything else on the planet other than the relationship between that soul and the planet herself and all the interaction that specific polar bear has. And the life it takes to nourish his body or her body to survive, and everything that goes along with that life may have nothing to do with any of us, but equally important. As far as the extinction goes, I got this message way long time ago before I completely understood what it meant. And I admit it in the book. I talked about in my book how I was told many, many, many years ago that the extinct animals would be coming back one day. And I never thought about it again until recently, maybe a year or so ago, I got this message that not that I was wrong, but I misunderstood. And what they were telling me is as we evolve into the fifth density and higher dimensions of consciousness, dimensions of space and densities of consciousness, we will actually get to join them again. So those extinct animals aren't coming back to 3D. We are just going to be able to go where they are, and they've never really left. They left the 3D space, but they're still thriving in 5D, and we will get to see them again. So I misinterpreted that, but I think that's a beautiful thing and another testament of how majestic and how advanced they are, that they can remove themselves, because a lot of them are here to create an energetic balance, life balance on this planet. And because they are being brutally, murdered and killed, and a lot of their homes are being just obliterated by construction projects and things all over the world. They just chose to leave, and it's not worth it for them. So they are fractals of Mother Gaia's consciousness, but they are also their own oversoul groups that may not have even originated necessarily from Earth. They could come from other planets as well. So within the wildlife kind of group, I want to talk about sacred species. I talked about this in my book. That's something that I have been learning about for a very long time, probably over 10 years ago. I started learning about it through a few of these animals that I'm going to talk about, and then some of them I learned more about in the recent years. So sacred species are those, again, not to say that they're better than any of the other animals, but they're deep rooted in the evolution of this planet and the consciousness of humanity by their role and what they're here to do. And they play a special role in our evolution of not only human species, but also the planet herself. So let's go into those a little bit. So we have whales and dolphins. So we're going to break it up to sea and land. So the sea are dolphins and whales. So breaking the two up, whales are the ones that are the Akashic record keeper of the planet. So they hold all the information and all the knowledge, all the sacred wisdom, everything. They are themselves record keepers. They hold all of the records, and they keep the balance of the sea and the communication from the outer sea and then inner earth and the portals between the two. And many whales can actually go into inner earth, into the other seas by connection grids and portals that are in various locations. Don't ask me where they are. I'm not going to pretend like I know, but I know that there is at least a few in every body of water. So in the Pacific and Atlantic, etc. So whales are very old wisdom, true old wisdom, and they're more kind of like the adults of the sea. And then we have dolphins. Dolphins are like dogs to us, meaning they are very playful, more like humans. That's why they're so playful and friendly, because they are more like the dogs of the sea. They are very friendly. They have a lot of the wisdom, and they do carry Akashic records as well, but they're kind of the communicators of the sea as well. And they remind humans to be more like them. So more carefree, more fun, carefree, fun, just like their personalities. They're trying to show us what we can do and to be less serious. And that's kind of what they do for us, which I think is why dolphins are so popular amongst humans in various capacities. That just got skewed with the attempted domestication of them through theme parks and captivity, which I don't even want to talk about that. But it's interesting how the two sacred species were the ones that were showcased the most in these parks, these theme, I don't want to say any names, I don't want to get in trouble, but you guys know where the ones I'm talking about. They had whales and dolphins. Interesting, huh? They had the orcas, which are actually dolphins, but some of them did have whales in captivity. So there's a lot of crazy, nefarious stuff going on to sabotage that. And I'm going to circle back to pets in a minute because I forgot to talk about allergies. But dolphins and whales, to sum up, they are the kind of the guardians of the sea. They are the guardians of the portals between inner Earth and outer Earth, and also our galactic counterparts, especially the Sirians, because Sirians, there are a lot of marine or water beings that are connected to Sirius and various other planets as well that come here and agree to be dolphins and whales, much like starseeds, but they're starseeds of the animal kingdom. They have starseeds just like we do, but in a different form, not because they need to evolve, but really more to energetically balance and contribute. So that's kind of another layer to it. So hopefully I didn't just confuse everyone. Elephant's my personal favorite. We're moving on to land. I've always had an obsession since I was very young with elephants. And I know now why, and I learned that kind of early on why that was. The elephants are the kind of like the whales. They're the more kind of serious adults of the land, and they're the Akashic record keepers. They're magnificent, and they open portals, they balance energy, and there's a reason why they say elephants don't forget, because they carry the Akashic records of the land and what happens up here. And then of course they can communicate with the whales through the nature and the elements. So, you know, rocks and the water itself and the coral and the trees and the grass and everything in between all send messages to each other. That's what I call nature sounds, are its own light language, because they can send information through these couriers of the grass and the rocks and the water, etc., and the soil. So elephants are a sacred species that hold the wisdom and knowledge on the land. And I talked about this in my book, and I don't know if I've ever seen anybody or heard anybody say this before. So if anyone has, I'd be curious to know. But I talk about this in my book. The reason that they are poached for their tusks is because, not just because of the value of the material itself and what it can be used for, but actually, just like a crystal, the tusks hold the wisdom, the Akashic records in them. Now, most people don't know how to read them and wouldn't know what to do with them, but the value is there, and they know that there's value there. And I believe that there are warehouses all over the world with hidden stockpiles of tusks, because they are waiting for the day where somebody will be able to read or decipher the Akashic records. The funny thing for them is that they'll never be able to read it, and the only ones that will be able to access it are those that can't be infiltrated. And I've been told that those are the indigenous. So there's no accident that a lot of Africans, let's say, in Kenya and other countries, have these sanctuaries for elephants, and they have a deep bond because they're guardians. And same in Asia, etc. So the tusks hold the information. Don't tell anyone I said that. Maybe I shouldn't be telling people that. But again, I've been told that it doesn't matter who has it, because only the few will be able to read them. And it won't be just like crystals. It also has to do with timing. So it has to do with the timing and the ability to read it. And one day, when the timing is right, probably when we're in 5D as a collective, that we'll be able to all read them. But in here, it's very sacred knowledge. So I thought that was very interesting with elephants. Horses. So horses are the other sacred species on the land. And much like dolphins, they are and I'm talking more about the domesticated-ish horses as opposed to the wild horses. So there's kind of two categories with horses. So it can be both. But the ones that are more domesticated and meant to be with us are kind of like the dolphins of the whale and dolphin dynamic. And then we have the horse and the elephant dynamic. which I think is pretty cool. So horses are very expansive, and they're also master healers, just like the whales and dolphins and elephants. And they can, their superpower is their ability to communicate with humans, even though most humans don't have any conscious knowing that they're communicating. They do very well. And they're easy to communicate with, which is why a lot of animal communication courses that I looked into eons ago all had horses, because they are the easiest to communicate, because they are willing and able to communicate with us telepathically and in other subtle ways. So they are high vibrational energetic beings, but their ability to heal profoundly is their gift. So their auric field expands football fields in length, so they can heal 20, 30, 40 people at the same time, as opposed to a dog is really limited to a smaller group. So that's why the horses came to me years ago and said, we need to have the horses in all of your schools with children or your learning centers, so that we can help establish the human animal connection once again to the children, and we can help heal them and connect them to a higher vibration, which is why I'm so passionate about making sure that most of the schools that are able to care for them adequately will have horses on the campuses for the children, because they have such vast healing abilities, but also the spiritual nature in which they are here to help us is, I think, beyond words. They're here to do so many different things. Okay. I feel like I'm running late on time. Lyran, felines, and not just Lyran. I want to be clear. There are feline humanoids all over this planet, many of which are Lyran, and I have a lot of clients that are Lyran humanoids, feline humanoids. But that doesn't mean that they're all Lyran. I have met some that are from Sirius, some from Andromeda, some that are not even from this universe. They're from another universe outside of here that work with the avian beings. But I wanted to talk about Lyran specifically because there are a large number of them. And that's where I wanted to kind of make sure I was clear about with the wild animals, where we have the cheetahs. The reason why we have so many cat species is because a lot of them are Lyrans, and they come in and they are guardians of this planet, much like I talked about with the cats in a domestic capacity, but they are in a energetic capacity in bodies of cheetahs. So they're not humanoids out on the outside, but they are Lyran felines souls, and they are guardians of the planet all over the place, through as small as a bobcat and a lynx all the way to lions and tigers. They're absolutely magnificent, high vibrational, healing, ascended masters, just beyond spectacular. And they really are here to help us, our earth thrive and to shift in vibration and to protect us, because they went through their own Lyran wars, and they know that they are kind of enemies, or I don't know if that's the right word, of the reptilian race and the Draco and things like that. So they know how to help when they can. Now, the actual Lyran human feline human species, they're interdimensional. So the ones that actually look like this are not going to be the lions themselves. They are interdimensional, and they're not going to be seen by many people. I don't think many people have communication with them because they kind of keep to themselves, and they don't really want to be seen, but they do so much to help guide us, which is why, the Egyptian community, or the Egyptian culture is so heavily focused on cats and the Sphinx and all of that. By good reason, because the Syrian felines work with the Lyran felines in order to kind of combat the negative species on the planet that are trying to take over and sabotage humanity, which they know not only affects the humans but also affects humanity, the Earth herself, keeping it in a low vibration, wreaking havoc, and then that affects the galaxy. So it's not just us, there's so much more to it, which is why they're helping us. So there are Lyran feline souls in the bodies of felines and wild cats. There are also interdimensional beings that are not seen by many. There are some that are spirit guides to some people. And then there are many humans that their soul presents themselves to me throughout my sessions as a Lyran feline. And I can see them looking like a lion or a cheetah face or many different aspects. These are just two examples that I found, but they have so many different views. But they generally are very astute, very powerful, but humble warriors, almost kind of sacred in and of themselves, because cats are a sacred species as well, which is kind of why I put this in that sacred species section, but they're in their own category. It's not, it's more than that. It's kind of an evolution. So hopefully that makes sense. There are also other humanoid species, of course, bird humanoid beings. We have the mer people. So it's not just the cats. There are a lot of others, but I don't have a lot of experience working with those. I only like to talk about the things that I have experience with. Otherwise, I'm just quoting other people and other people's books to make myself sound smarter than I am. And I don't like to do that. So I only talk about the stuff I directly have connection with or I've learned about through my sessions, because I feel it's more valid for me to talk about those things. So that's why I'm talking about the Lyrans. But again, I know that there are Syrian felines, Andromedan felines, and probably others. And then outside of this universe, they come from all over the galaxies. Okay. Last tonight, and hopefully I wasn't speaking too quickly. I trying to be clear and concise, but I want to make sure that we have time for Q&A. So spirit animals, I'll just touch on them briefly, and maybe I'll do just a separate free YouTube video at some point, because there's so much we can say. But the point of this part is I just want people to know that we do have spirit animal totems and protectors and guides that come to us in spirit form that don't incarnate as a physical animal, but they are here to protect us and guide us, much like spirit guides or an angel. They are here to deliver messages, and they do a lot for us in their astral body, which is why shamans work a lot with the spirit animals and talk a lot about them and the messages that they bring. So majority of us have at least one spirit animal attached to them. And that's what happened with me. I was obsessed with elephants, and I found out that they're my spirit and my main spirit animal, my protector, my whole life, which is why I couldn't stop thinking about them. I was obsessed with them. And when I found that out, I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. But I'm also very obsessed with lions specifically. And of course, now the Sphinx cat in the last 20 years. And so I'm also very connected to the Lyrans, and that's also why I wanted to talk about the felines, because they are magnificent and what they do for us. But then there are also, hawks and ravens and eagles and owls and various canine species and wolves, and they all come. And like I said, we all have our main spirit animal, and then we have those that come to us when we need them the most, and then they also come to us to give us signs. So there's lots of different layers. So animal totems are more like, what's your animal totem right now? That's the animal, that's your power animal in that time, where the spirit animals really means more like who's connected to you on a spirit level that's protecting you in that animal form. So there's kind of different ways to look at it. So I always tell, when I work with children and do the spirit animal class, I teach them kind of the way that you decipher or discern the message that the animal has for you. All you have to do, instead of looking it up, is you think about that animal and the characteristics that that animal has. So let's say there's a bear I'm looking at right now here on the screen. So if we think about, there's also different species of bears, but let's say it's a grizzly bear. So we have a giant brown bear. The characteristics are strong and they're fierce and they're protectors. So if this animal comes to a child in their mind and they're seeing them or dreaming about them, that animal is trying to show them how to be strong and stand up for themselves and be on the more of the, instead of being on the defense, be more on the offense. So we have the animals will portray the the animals will help us receive their characteristics, and that's how we are able to take on that superpower in the moment that we need it. And then there are other animals that do something completely opposite of that. So the animals, what their typical characteristics are like, write them down, think about it, and see how that relates to your life. And perhaps that's something that either is dominating you right now, something that needs to be changed, or something you need to go towards. And only you're going to know the answer to that. So if you're dreaming about an animal, or you are obsessed and you're like, Sherri, I have a house full of owls, or whatever the animal is, well, okay, that probably is your kind of your main spirit animal. And they're helping you embody those characteristics your whole life. Maybe you need to be really astute and focused, and they're there to continuously help you with that. Or if you just, keep seeing a specific animal cross your path and it's super obvious that the universe is trying to get your attention, and every time you walk outside, the specific animal is in your face, like a butterfly. This happens a lot. Then that butterfly is telling you you're going through a transformation and change is coming, and it's okay, and it's not to be afraid. So think about what that animal characteristics are like and what the message that they're trying to give to you. You can come up with it on your own using your own intuition. I find it more challenging to go online and Google the spiritual message of a bear, for example, because then you're going to have 15 search engines and they're all going to say something different, and it's going to confuse you. So I try to teach people to do it themselves. So, and that's exactly how I teach you. So there is a main spirit animal. Then there are animals that come into your life as you need them to embody that specific power that they have, that strong characteristic. Or maybe you just need a protector. Maybe you need a fierce wolf to be around you because you're constantly being attacked energetically, and they're not necessarily telling you to be strong and attack somebody, but you need that protection, that strong energy. So you see, there's lots of different ways that the animal kingdom can be our guides and protectors. That it's not just one explanation. So it's difficult to give everybody one blanket answer for everything, because there's a multidimensionality with the spirit animals as well as the physical animals. So I hope that makes sense. Maybe I can answer a few questions about specific spirit animals in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing right now. That's the last of the slides, and I'm going to open it up to questions. I'm going to start with I'm going to try to go back to the beginning. And oh, the first question, that's so funny. Nina asked, what kind of animals do you see coming back? So that's funny because, like I said, I misinterpreted the message that I received many, many years ago that the animals would be coming back. Is in actuality, what that meant was we are going to be able to go into the density that they're in. So not only do I see rhinos and other species of whales and elephants that we've never seen or haven't seen in quite some time, but also species we've never even heard of, nor have we seen that exist in another dimension that are just, there are no names for them. So they're just beautiful, majestic, colorful, even translucent, flighted, and beings that can also swim and also be on land. I mean, so it's a lot of the animals that we know of that are extinct, but also even beyond that, to animals that I'd never heard of before. So hopefully that answered your question. Okay. So what are your thoughts on the value of incarnational contracts between our animal friends and ourselves? I mean, hopefully I know that this was in the very beginning, Ender. So hopefully I did a good job of explaining all of that throughout this conversation, this presentation. But the significance is strong. I mean, our contracts with our animals is significant. They come in for a purpose or a period of time that might be multi-purpose, that serve many avenues of protection, guidance, companionship, unconditional love, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that are very valuable. And there is much more to it than we're taught, in old school books and things like that. So I think it's very strong. So, Ender, if that isn't answering your question, let me know. I love her. Are you talking about me? Oh, Karen, if that was about me, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. If that was about someone else, I'm embarrassed. Okay. I have had a massive cosmic experience where I was confronted with cosmic animal beings that protect creation. It's deep. My cat, who crossed over on August 2021, talks to me frequently and has opened me up to this part of life. We are still super connected and it has changed my life. So my question would be, what are your thoughts on the power of animal beings in the process of galactic interaction? Yeah. So again, hopefully I answered some of that when I talked about the Lyrans. But yeah, there are a lot of galactic, interdimensional, even interterrestrial beings that are guiding us, that I think that as our soul group, like, how do I say this? In other lifetimes, in other incarnations that we have had on other planets, as those beings also, we are calling upon our ancestral lineage of that galactic being group. I don't know if I'm saying that right, where they're coming to help us. Because remember, what I've been told a lot is, why do these beings help us? Yes, they want to help because it's going to affect the galactics, the cosmos, what happens here. But also remember that some of them are coming to help their own family members that have become trapped here too. So they're coming here, they have a vested interest in making sure that we evolve and we get out of the situation that we're in this 3D, and they're going to help us. So these other galactic beings that have forms that we've never seen before, or we don't even understand what they are. Are they human, animal, whatever? They are, in essence, our soul family too, or we have connection to them in some way, and they are communicating with those people that they're connected to. So in this specific question, I believe, this is Ender again. I believe Ender, the galactic being is probably connected to your cat as well. And maybe they're Lyran, I don't know, but they're connecting to as many people that are consciously ready or able to connect with them and receive the communication. So hopefully I hope that made sense. Oh, Chrissy, see, this is a question that is hard to answer. She said, how can we get them to stop taking on our pain? It feels like they are making our cat sick, and I'm worried for our cat, Mr. Jinx. So that's a couple layers of question. The first part is, how can we get them to stop taking on our pain? They won't. That's why they're here. I've been told repeatedly, time after time after time, that is why they're here. That is I know this sounds terrible to say, but it's part of their purpose. Their journey is to come here and take on your pain, because they're at a density that we aren't at yet, which means they can take our pain and transmute it much easier than we can. That's where we're going. That's where we're evolving to. And I've been told that at some point when we are advanced in a higher density, we will get to a point where we won't have that pain and we'll be able to do that ourselves and we won't need their help. But until then, they are willing and able to do it. So they come in and say, this is why I'm here. Let me help you. But we are those of us that are compassionate and have love towards these animals can't fathom the thought that we are hurting them in some way. And we look at it like, what did we do to them and how can I hurt them? And what I tell people is try not to look at it that way. Learn from what they came to help you with so that their experience isn't in vain for them. Maybe they died for you. So instead of having guilt and spiraling out of control and making their life not worth what they did, or that sacrifice they made not worth it, prove to them and show to them how valuable they are by making those changes. And that's the best way I could explain it. They want to do that. They're so, because they understand on a higher level that when they leave, this is just one incarnation for them. It doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme, because they are going to be reunited with their soul after that short duration of being a dog or a cat or whatever they were. So to them, it's not that big of a deal, because they're like, I'll see them soon. And they also know that on another level, your soul is communicating with their soul, and you already know that everything is okay. But on a conscious level, we don't put that together, because all we could see is what we feel, and we mourn, and we love them so much that we can't think about them not being with us. But they tell me, they explain it in that way. And I hope that makes people feel a little bit better, so we don't put so much pressure on ourselves. Because I think that their ultimate sacrifices are healing. So the best way we could serve them is to heal as best we can. Hopefully that made sense. Thank you, Ender. Okay. What role do you think dragons play? I feel I am very spiritually connected with them. Oh, dragons. Yeah, I didn't talk about dragons. Oh, yeah, dragons. Okay. Dragons are interdimensional beings as well. There's a reason why the Asian culture is so, they focus so much on dragons, because dragons are very powerful. They're almost like lyrans, the lyran feline humanoids, and even the blue avians. They are a group. There's lots of different dragons too, by the way. So I'm not speaking about all dragons as one group, but a majority of the dragon beings are evolved galactic beings, not from this planet, that come here to guide us in our evolution, like the lyran cat beings do, or like the blue avians do, that are extremely evolved, and they are fierce protectors, just like the cats, and they work in the astral. And so a lot of humans have them as spirit guides, animal spirit guides, to help them fight in the astral. So if you have a dragon, you're likely a warrior, and in the astral, you're fighting alongside that dragon against whatever it is that you're fighting against. And I think they're very prominent in the Asian culture for a reason that goes beyond where I believe the a lot of the Asians that I work with, at least, or what I've been told, come from Sirius, both Sirius A and B. And I believe that many of the dragons are Sirian as well. But again, they can be from anywhere. I don't like to make blanket statements. I only talk about, again, what I've heard. So they play a very big role in our evolution. But that's not to say that there aren't negative dragons too. And I've seen them, and I've seen them attack children. But again, there's variations to everything. Just like I've seen negative cat beings too, believe it or not. So you're likely connected to the dragons. Maybe you are a dragon someplace else. Cats travel to inner earth spiritually and physically a lot. Yes, absolutely, Angela, they do. They're very connected to inner earth. I saw, well, it doesn't matter if I knew her name, because I don't talk bad about anybody. I saw somebody talking about lyrans and how there's no connection of lyrans to inner earth. Recently on an interview, she's like an animal communicator. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I don't agree with that. I see a lot of them are connected. A lot of lyrans are connected to inner earth and felines specifically. So yes, there are a lot of them in inner earth as well. Yes, absolutely. Physically and astrally, definitely. Separation anxiety. Gosh, this is a hard one. How do you help your pet with separation anxiety? Her golden, well, I don't know if it's female or male, sorry. This person's golden retriever lives at their dad's house, and when he leaves, they're very sad. Sorry, I don't want to read this because it's super long. They're basically saying that I'm just gonna say she, I apologize. So the dog, the golden retriever, has severe separation anxiety. And every time they leave the house, he just, has a hard time. Oh, thank you. And she talks to the golden retriever telepathically and says, we're going to be back in this. So that's exactly what I would do. So This is a hard one because some of these animals, and I have one in my home, we call him the stage 5 clinger. My Doberman is my husband's companion. We say he's like his service dog, but he also takes on a lot of my husband's anxiety. And he's already an anxiety-ridden breed anyways. So they feel like their sole purpose, some of them, is to be the protector or companion of this specific person they're connected to. So in this case, this golden retriever feels like she has a strong purpose to be with, I think it was your dad. Yeah, your dad. And or whomever sorry if I misread that. Whomever the dog feels their connection with, it's so strong that they literally have separation anxiety, like the energetic umbilical cord. There is an energetic cord connected between us and people and us on our pets. So animals feel it very profoundly, whereas some people don't even notice it. And so when that thread between the person and the animal gets thinner, that meaning the person goes to work or wherever, the animal is beside themselves because they feel like, I cannot see them. I don't know what's happening. I can't protect them. And it's a really challenging issue because remember what I said, even though these souls are advanced beings, they're still primal at the end of the day, and they're still in a dog body, a dog mindset, a dog brain. So there's limited ability sometimes to channel in the level of intelligence that they have. Some of them have mastered it very well, but others struggle with that. Maybe they're not as connected to being a dog. Maybe it's one of their first times or something. So they really struggle. They're more primal domestic dogs or cats. And others have done it so many times that it's like second nature to them. So this particular dog might be having a really hard time. So that being said, what I do is I just talk to my animals like I talk to a person. I tell them I love them so much. I'm going to go, or in this, for our case, for the Dobes, I say, he's not here. He went to work. He'll be back. We love you so much. Sometimes we'll give him something that smells like my husband, and just give him, like a sock. He likes to walk around with his sock in his mouth, or let him sit on his side of the bed. And we just continuously reiterate that he's fine. Everything is okay. And it's just consistency and repetition. And unfortunately, some do really well over time, and then others just struggle their whole life. And again, that's that primal aspect. It's really hard to change that. So you can do what you can to reward them when they're gone for the times that they are relaxed. Or you could try natural products like CBD. I've done that with my Doberman. Make sure you do good quality. Don't buy it from CVS now. Good quality CBD products, gummies, or the chewables or something, or the liquids, and sometimes that helps. But they feel like their sole purpose is being ripped away from them, and they don't know how to handle it. And I feel so bad for them. But that's what I do. Those are some of the things that I do. Oh, that's it? Wow. Okay, well, does anyone have any more questions? Because I really thought we were going to have a lot more questions, so I saved time, and now we're actually finishing a little bit early, and I don't want anyone to feel like they didn't get what they wanted out of this. So I'll take a moment to give you a second to put more questions if you want. And if not, let me think really quickly. Oh, allergies. I'll talk about allergies real quick. Oh, Karen's asking, she's interested in animal communication. Is there a class you recommend? I wish I did. Maybe I'll do one. Maybe I'll do a specific animal communication class in the fall. I'll offer something. And if I don't do it in time and I think of somebody or I know somebody, I'm not just gonna Google it. I want to recommend somebody I trust. So if I think of anybody, I'll put it on my Facebook page or Instagram. But if not, maybe I'll put something up for the fall. I'll try to do that. Yeah, I'll do it. What was I talking about? Oh, allergies. Okay, I talked about this in my book. Animal allergies is 3D interference. So because the dark players, I call them the dark players, they know they know what animals do for our stability, our balance, our all of the things. They're just absolutely incredible. That because they know that, they do whatever they can and have done whatever they can in the past to disconnect us from them, because they don't want us to have, because that was the other thing. Animals, especially domestic ones in our home, have the ability to help us awaken. They can open up our pineal gland, to believe it or not. They can help us heal. And the more connection we have, the stronger connection we have to them, the deeper our knowing becomes and the less programmable we are. And they know that, and they don't want that to happen. So they started creating animal allergies. I don't remember when. I have to go back and look at my notes of when it was, probably in the 80s or 90s. And they do that just like they do with toxins in the food and through the vaccines in various ways, that they are able to introduce it to our body so that we develop antibodies, so that when we have the animal dander of the cats or dogs specifically, we develop allergies over generations. So this is probably something they've been planning for a long time, but it took maybe a few generations to take off. Just like the peanut allergies are off the charts now these days. Well, they use them in the vaccines as binding agents. So there's no accident that we have more allergies with eggs and peanuts, etc. They can do the same with animals. They can spray things in our air, put things in our food that our body can perceive or receive as a threat. And so a lot of the animal allergies are orchestrated or have been orchestrated so that we develop, we develop the allergy, but so that we can't have them in our home. And we don't have that ability to have that deep level of companionship. That is just beyond sometimes what we can have with human to human, no matter what, no matter how close you are with your husband or wife or your child or parents. There's some other level of connection that animals give to us that is beyond even the word. Like, I don't have words for it. And so the allergies are meant to separate us from the animals. So the way you can combat that too is by working in your mind that you do not consent, and visualize your body adapting to the animal. I'll have to teach this in the animal communication class because I can't do justice to it right now, trying to be quick with it. But there are ways to combat it. And a lot of it has to do with your mind and refusing to allow that allergy to exist within you. And it takes effort and repetitive affirmation and meditation and concentration. But many people have fought their allergies over time, and they're non-existent anymore, or diminished significantly. So that's a whole other thing. Okay, I think I saw some people asking. Okay, any recommendations on how to help my dog when new people come into his life? He is extremely timid and barks at the new. Yeah, see, some of these, again, this could be primal, or their feeling of wanting to protect you, because remember, they're like children in the sense that they see everything that we don't see. They see not only the energy that the person comes in with, their hitchhikers, their intentions, their thought patterns, and that can be overwhelming to the animal. And so they may not even be barking at your friend that comes in. It could be the entourage that they come in with. So this is a hard one, because again, it's like, do we want to scold the dog for doing what they're there to do? Of course not. But at the same time, we can't have them barking at everybody and making it a really toxic, kind of not toxic environment, but a negative situation for people who are not wanting to come into your home. So what I've helped train people to do is, especially with newer dogs, like puppies, have people come in waves as training, and have them come in a little bit at a time, have them give the dog or a treat. And you can't push it. So if the dog is shy and runs and hides in the other room, we just leave them be. So if your cat or the dog doesn't like people but leaves them alone and goes in the other room, then we just let them be. We respect that, and we don't push it. We don't try to make them come out. But for the ones that are kind of uneasy or barking, we can do a series of having people come through with treats in hand, Positive. I work with positive reinforcement. I don't do negative reinforcement. I don't align with that. So I try to reward the positive behaviors as opposed to reprimanding for the negative ones. That doesn't always work, but that's what I try to do. So you can talk to them telepathically ahead of time, before your guest comes, and you sit with them and you pet them, and you can say it out loud, or you can, for dogs, for whatever reason, I prefer to speak out loud, and cats, but I can say it in my mind too. And I tell them, Stephanie's coming over. I know sometimes you feel uneasy with her, but she's part of our family, friend family. And you just work up the positive reinforcement. And every time they react positively without barking, then you say, good girl, good boy. And then you have them give the treat, and it's just repetition. It's a pain in the butt, and people get frustrated because they don't want to have to repeatedly do it. So that's why there are oftentimes are setbacks. Talk to them, visualize in your mind what you want them to see, because they're also visual. So your words have to be coupled with a visualization, and that also helps. It's a process. I empathize with that, though. Nikki Vasquez. Okay, well, you guys could see. There's a person that does animal communication. So you can look that name up. It's in here. And I'm going to look her up too. I like that. Okay. You're welcome, everybody. I'm glad you have enjoyed this. It's not much I can, it's hard to squeeze a lot of information into an hour and a half, but I really felt like this urge to do this, because I think that there's no accident. For those of you that came, and probably the ones that weren't able to make it, they knew I was going to record this, so they'll get the recording later. Everyone's going to get the information that they were meant to hear, and there's nobody here by accident. So, wait. Recommendations on how to accept our animal friends are doing exceedingly well in the higher planets. Wait, I don't understand the question. Recommendations on how to accept our animal friends are doing exceedingly well. I'm not sure how to answer that. Wait, is there more? Remember, I know sometimes we think our animals suffer, and they do. Listen, I worked in the ICU. I'm an RVT. I worked with animals for 20 years, and 10 of those years I was in the ICU, critical care. I saw animals in ways you can't even imagine. I was their nurse. I don't even want to tell you a lot of the stuff that I saw, and man, do they suffer. But what I will say is, when I was able to tune in and energetically connect, they do have the ability to dissociate, just like we do. So in extreme trauma and things like that, they can disconnect from the body and choose not to experience that pain because they don't want to. I'm not saying animals don't experience pain. I'm not saying that at all. But I was surprised by how many animals told me that they were like outside watching. So a lot of the reaction of their body, high blood pressure, high heart rate, rapid breathing, agitation, all of those things that as nurses we would watch and try to help. They weren't even there. They were outside watching. So the physical body is experiencing pain, but as a high dimensional being, they were able to remove themselves so that they didn't experience it. Or if they did, they could experience the level of the pain that they, you know what I'm saying? Like they didn't need to feel it 100%. Hopefully that made sense. Okay. Yeah, Ender, you got a lot to say. Thanks so much. Oh, he said Galactic Federation. No, you don't need to be sorry. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm so glad you guys all joined me. This was a lot of fun for me too. I really enjoyed it. So it's a different topic, and I could talk about animals for hours. So it's fun for me as well. Let me just see. Yeah, birds can be angels. Honestly, and angels can take on the form of anything. But they do like to be birds because they can fly. And so a lot of birds can take on angelic. Oh, hold on. Hold on, let me finish. Nikki is great. Yeah, I'm gonna look up Nikki as well for myself because I don't really have anyone to recommend people to, and I feel bad saying no. I don't like to say no to people. My daughter's right here, Erin. She wants to say hi to everybody. You want to say hi real quick? You can't see their faces because their cameras are off. So she wanted to say hi. All right. Oh yeah, you guys can say hi real quick if you want. She's been in the background the whole time listening to me. I was like, "Are you? Was I boring?"
Yes.
Lucky girl.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining me. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email me and or I can do a part 2. Let me know what you want to talk about. Maybe we could do a part 2 on a specific topic. And I'll get that animal communication on the calendar, maybe for what month are we in? You look so pale. For September. So I'll work on that as well. So thank you everybody for joining me. It's been a pleasure. And I hope all of you have a great rest of your evening.